Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tabish. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, Mr. Paul. It's nice meeting you for the first time when I joined the school. And I was in a shock coming to a new place and meeting you, Rohan and Soumya in the conference room, I still remember. So I always wanted to know more about you because it's my first meeting any Irishman. Though I like the movie Phil Collins and I've watched it several times, but first time.
Okay, good.
So you were born in Ireland and grew up there?
No, I wasn't born in Ireland.
Okay.
So I was born in London to Irish parents in 1969.
Okay.
So they were of the generation where the economy of Ireland couldn't sustain the people there. So my parents were educated to the age of about 12 or 13.
Okay.
So they went to London separately and met there in their late 20s. So my dad was 30 when he got married, and then we lived there in an area called Islington.
Okay.
And I was born in Bethnal Green, which is an area where if you're born within the sound of the Bow Bells, you're a Cockney.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a true Cockney. So when I came back to Ireland at 5, I had a very strong Cockney accent.
That's very strange. Like I heard about it, I haven't met anybody or I haven't heard anybody speaking. But once I watched one movie in which it was the scenario, and I couldn't get a word.
Yeah. So a lot of it was core blimey, core blimey, core blimey. That was So that's how I spoke.
Once I saw you talking to Kenny, and I was next to you, being a second language learner and a second language teacher, I couldn't get a word what you two were talking.
Yeah.
And I thought that it may not be English, like South African people sometimes they speak South African.
No, it was English.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And then Kenny clarified that you guys speak slower for the non-natives.
Yes.
Is that so?
Yes.
We call it received pronunciation, right?
Yeah, so I've been a teacher and a trainer this is my 29th year, and I've lived overseas for most of that. Oh. So I've sort of developed that sense of speaking very slowly and using relatively simple words. Okay. Even in America, I had to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, surprisingly enough. So when I go home, probably like yourself, when you go home to Pakistan, the accent returns and the speed speeds up a little bit, and so all of that.
Has it ever happened that you were talking to your friends, your old friends, and then you started speaking, this normal language of Gulf countries?
A little, maybe in the first day or so. Okay. But the Irish have a way of getting rid of all of that. So when I went home when I was 5, when we went back home, I lost my accent in about 6 months because the kids there, they didn't appreciate an English person in their school. So to sort of protect myself, I developed an Irish accent.
It was very young of you to decide on it, like you want to switch in 5 years.
Yeah, but they didn't tolerate back then. They were very closed, very sort of, if you weren't from the town and you had a history in the town, you were seen as an outsider. We call them blow-ins.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can be a blow-in after 50 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you'll never be, a true blue wherever you're, small town or village.
Yes. So, you spent most of the time out of your country. Where have you been, like Gulf countries and where else?
Yeah, so I've traveled quite a bit, and my first trip overseas was to Germany when I was 13. Work-wise, I've been to Tanzania, worked there for 2.5 years. I worked for NASA in America for 4 years, and then I went to Turkmenistan with the UN, and then I came back to Ireland for 4 years. Then I went to Abu Dhabi for 2 years. I was in Kazakhstan for 6 years. Good. And then Oman, I've been here for 5 years.
5 years now.
Yeah.
And today was your farewell and you're leaving Oman very soon.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you compare these countries? Like which one was the best part? Of course, mostly people say that present is the best part. Okay.
Yeah.
But how would you rate it?
I've enjoyed my time here. For me, it was better when my family were here.
Yes.
and since COVID has hit, it has been very different. And I think it's a good country for families.
Yes.
And people that I've met in work have been very generous with their time outside of work. But still, I think it's easier if you're family and kid connections.
Yes.
How
about your kids? Like, how many do you have?
I have three.
Three.
3 girls.
3 girls, mashallah.
Yeah.
And they are all grown up?
Growing up.
Growing up.
Yeah, so my youngest is Tia.
Okay.
She's 14.
Yeah, the one with
Yeah, she was here. Yeah.
Yes.
Kayla is 18.
Okay.
And Emma is 20.
Oh.
Yeah.
And does your wife work?
She has worked. More recently, we had a census. So she was a regional manager for the census.
Okay.
She hasn't consistently worked outside of the home. So she was an administrator with Peace Corps. She was managing a $1 million budget, and she gave that up to have kids.
And how about when she was working, when she was here in Muscat?
No, she didn't work.
She didn't work.
Our kids were homeschooled, so she was busy with that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Because in my country it's different. Like, women working is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, not normally, most of the women are housewives. That's
Sure.
it. Even if they are doctors, even if they are highly qualified, they stay home. And culture, something like that.
Yeah, no,
but it is changing.
Yeah. No, that was a very conscious decision that we made. And we traveled. We've been traveling, since the kids have been born, and it's just easier.
What's their feedback coming and living in Oman and Muscat? How did they feel?
They enjoyed it. It was again easy to live in. When they were here, they were part of the homeschooling community, so they had a lot of good friends, and then slowly, as people have left, it's become newer people coming in, and the kids are getting bigger, so we've sort of we're not as involved with that as we were. Yeah.
How do you feel? Like, how do you say yourself? Like, are you introvert? Are you extrovert? Are you outgoing? Staying home?
I think by nature I'm introverted.
Okay.
But when I get comfortable with people, I tend to be a little more extroverted. And I think here in the school, I've probably been a little more extroverted than I would typically be. And I like developing sort of one-on-one relationships. That's the thing I like, and getting to know people and getting to know what motivates them. And for me as a manager, that helps. So I rarely see people as, a unit of 40 people. I usually see them as 40 individuals. And I think my strengths are trying to get to know people. Sort of, yeah.
How do you see yourself, like Paul as a teacher, Paul as a trainer, Paul as an administrator?
I think I'm probably at this stage more suited to what I do, which is still an administrator, but I don't see myself. I still want to connect, so I see myself as being very much involved. Like, I'm very visible in the school, and I get to know the kids as much as I can. So they see me as someone who is always around, and I like that. I don't like being cut away from the people that I'm working with and for, and the kids in particular.
Good.
So I never saw myself as, a bookkeeper or a person making money. I'm an educator, so I always try.
Do you miss the classroom?
I do, yeah.
The whiteboard and the marker.
Yeah, I do. I've this year is the first year in a long time where I haven't been teaching. Even last year I was doing a little bit, and it helps me connect with the kids, and I think it also helps me understand the teacher's point of view still. So, an issue that might seem relatively small to me is a big issue for teachers, and that could be lack of a printer. So it's easy to sort of dismiss that, but I know when I'm going into a classroom situation and I have just left it for the last 5 minutes to get printing done, and I expect it to be done, and then it isn't, or I know that it won't be ready, you know, for a week. Well, then it changes everything. Luckily we have technology, but people should be able to say, okay, I want this, or Paul needs this now, and I need to give him. I'm in the zone for it print, as opposed to I have to remember to go back to that. So,
oh my God!
Yeah.
Because I realized this. I've been talking to Kenny all this time. Like we should get a printer for our department.
Yeah.
And then I brought my own home printer here.
Yeah.
It's in my office now. So far, you won't believe, since like printing the exam papers and onwards, like I've printed 2 rims, like around 2,000 pages so far.
Yeah.
And had I not have this printer, then I may be running here and there.
Sure.
And anyway, it's a basic need now. What do you think?
Printing?
Yes.
It shouldn't be, but it is. It is. The paperless office that they promised 20 or 30 years ago is still a dream.
How do you see that? Like if the education system, the external exams are all paper based, and if we let the students practice on screen most of the time, how would you expect them to perform in the paper based exam?
Yeah, I think it is tricky, and I think it's an old skill now in terms of writing. You know, rarely would you need to write as a professional, other than maybe to take your own notes. So yeah, I think we need to move with the times. Maybe come up with ways of.
Let's leave the school behind.
Yeah.
Okay, Ireland. There are 2 parts, like North and South. Okay, North is independent and South is still UK. Is that so?
No, the opposite.
The opposite. Okay, South is independent and North is still part of UK.
Yeah.
So, which part is UK and which part is the Great Britain? Are they the same or different?
So they are the same. So United Kingdom and Great Britain, as far as I know, it is still a little bit confusing.
Okay.
No. So I think United you might have to edit this. The United Kingdom is England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland.
Okay.
I think that is the UK. Great Britain is England, Scotland, and Wales.
Okay, not Northern Ireland.
And the reason I think that is that when you look at your passport, the English passport, it says Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, yeah, that's my understanding.
But it's been a very long time, like colonialism finished a long time ago.
Sure.
I remember last country got independent was South Africa in 1992 or something.
94,
right?
yeah.
94.
No, that was apartheid. That's when they ended.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think they got independence before that.
Before that.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying.
Yes. But how do you see that? Like Kenny's from Scotland and you are from Ireland, and still you are under the UK and the Queen. And I understand that Australia follow the same Queen and Canada follows the same Queen. But it is not that way. Is that the same?
Okay, so the north of Ireland is predominantly Protestant and loyalist, meaning that they're loyal to the crown. Okay. So of a population of 1.5 million, about 1 million of them are loyalists. So there is in the sort of the UK, or possibly the constitution of sorts, there is a provision that should Northern Ireland want to, I think it's section 2 or something, want to join with Ireland, if they get a majority who want that, then it will happen.
Oh.
Yeah. But what has happened historically is that the Crown, the British Crown, they had a deliberate policy of populating the north with English and Scottish.
Okay.
So
because my understanding to Scotland and Ireland is from movies, popular movies, the Braveheart for the Scotland and Phil Collins for Ireland, and the struggle for the freedom and all that I saw over there only. Okay, so I thought that I should ask you about it.
Yeah.
Are they misunderstandings or are they true? Like.
No, I think they're true representations. What I will do is I will correct you on one thing.
Okay.
The person you're referring to is Michael Collins.
Michael Collins.
Phil Collins
is a pop star.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Michael Collins, it was a real character. So there was a real move for independence in Ireland in the early 20th century. So we had
So right after First World War.
Yeah, so actually we did have a rebellion in 1916. It was called the Easter Rising. It happened over Easter. It was very unpopular and was quickly squashed, but it sort of set up things in the future. What happened was the English made a big mistake. It was one of those situations where the majority of people in Ireland did not support it, but the English started executing the leaders.
Oh.
And that actually turned the tide for Irish people in terms of, well, this is something relatively small, no one needs to die, but the English made an example of them, and then that turned the tide a little bit, and we had a treaty with the British, and we had a civil war in the 20s, so there was a lot of turbulence around that time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, very good history of Ireland, very quick one.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you see the cultural differences? Like when I see you and during the party days and National Day and the way you dress up and the picture that I have for Irish people and cultural people, is that the same or different? For example, you mostly, whenever you're wearing a jeans, you fold it
at the bottom.
At the bottom.
So what is your perception of art when you ask me to clarify? What is your idea?
Like, is it your style or is it really Irish cultural style?
Okay, so we in Ireland, if you were to look back, so you have to go back quite a bit in order to get a sense of what Irish traditional style might look like, and you might even go back into like the 1800s. So if you see pictures of men from that time, they are dressed something similar to what I'm dressed as now, but their clothes would be heavier and it would be tweed, but a waistcoat would be typical, a soft hat like the Peaky Blinders, that would be traditional. But if people dress like that now, they're either in costume almost, or they're Americans. Thinking that they're dressing as Irish. Okay. So unlike say in Pakistan where people would dress in a very traditional way, but it would be every day from workers to whatever, and you just see it as normal. There isn't a similar dress for Ireland.
But you see that globally we have all adopted to certain culture, like shirts and pants and jeans and t-shirts, and most of the countries like have got almost the same thing. When they go for the traditional one, only then they have different costumes. But most of the workplace they require you put on these things. Except for Omanis, you don't see them wearing at workplace.
So the way I would dress normally, or sort of typically, it would be maybe Irish style, but it would be based on that. But it wouldn't like. No one would say, "Oh, you're dressed in traditional dress."
I saw you on the National Day. You were wearing Omani dress. But not this year, last year, the year before, right?
Yeah.
How was it? How was the feel?
The first time I put it
With
on,
Masar as well.
Yeah, the first time I put it on was a couple of years ago in KGIS, and as soon as I put it on, I felt immediately relaxed.
Oh, really?
It changed everything about me, and I remember just almost floating around the place. Of course, it was National Day, so everything was pretty laid back, but I was head of secondary there, and I should have been maybe a bit more involved in the organizational aspect of things, but because I was dressed, it was like, everything is fine. So I just remember thinking, if this is how Omanis feel when they dress, no wonder they act in the way they do when everything is just shway and easy, because I really felt relaxed, like there's no constriction with clothes, you just put on a garb that is just very suitable to the weather and light and airy, and there's no ties that you have to worry about, or you're turning up your socks or whatever it might be.
How about any other cultural dress you tried? That was Omani, and that's
I've worn sort of sarongs as well. I used to wear them in Tanzania,
okay.
and I still wear them around the house, so I feel very comfortable wearing those as well.
And what does it look like? I don't know.
Just like a wrap, you know, like you might have.
Okay, yeah.
That
We have it. We call it different. We call it lungi. We call it tahmat. We call it different names. We have, but the same. It's a wrap only.
Yeah, exactly. So I wear that particularly around the house when it's hot out.
Yes.
And I think it just goes back to my days in Tanzania.
Okay. Okay. Something about Oman that makes it a different place from the rest of the world. What do you think?
I think it's one of those, particularly in the Gulf, what makes it different to countries in the Gulf, from what I know, which is quite little, is that it has an older culture, I think, than most of the countries, which maybe came to prominence with oil. And it has a lot of history with the Portuguese and with the British, with Zanzibar and Tanzania. Yes. And then it also has that sort of diversity of landscape. So you have the sea, you have the desert, and you also have the mountains. So I don't know if it makes it necessarily unique, but it certainly makes it enjoyable here.
Okay. And how about the people?
Yeah, the people are friendly, pretty laid back. They seem to be similar in outlook to Irish people. You know, they're inquisitive, they're friendly, helpful. So I've enjoyed working with them. I think in the school setting we get a side of some of the parents that may not be typical, and you know, for obvious reasons they might be a little bit frustrated when they come into us.
Very, very personal question. How many Pakistanis have you worked before?
Pakistanis.
Or was that first time in Abu Dhabi, in Tanzania?
No, I worked.
Pakistan.
I worked in the KGIS with. I'm trying to think if they were definitely Pakistanis, but I think they were more British Pakistanis.
Okay. Oh.
There was a couple from the UK, so and then we had some friends in the UAE that were American Pakistanis.
Okay. So here you came and you met first time Pakistani, no dual nationals.
Yeah.
Like I'm only Pakistani.
I think that's. I'm just trying to think if there was anyone in my previous school.
In previous school, the accountant went from this school. He's pure Pakistani.
Yeah. So no, I would have. I think we missed each other. I think I was coming here and he was going there.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to think. No, I think there were some of the people I would have met were Indian. I don't think there were any Pakistanis.
Okay. Since the culture is the same and our language matches a lot, and before 47 we were the same country.
Sure.
Even my father's birthplace is still in India. And when I meet any Indians, I proudly tell them like my father was born in Bihar and Patna over there, and especially when I hear the dialect. And that's the dialect that my grandmother, my aunt, and my father father just lost it, like he was in the urban cities more, but my grandmother used to speak in that dialect, and I still miss it. Like when I hear the voice here and I go closer to them and ask them, like, please, can you speak more about it? Like I want to hear it. It gives me good memory. So how do you feel working with Pakistanis? You had Mr. Asif, Mr. Zishan, Mr. Rizwan, Tabish.
Yeah,
Ms. Talat.
Yeah.
Ms. Nadia.
Well, the people I've met here, I don't know if I can generalize. I'll just say the people I met here, the Pakistanis, are good folk. They're good workers. They seem to have a quietness about them, sort of a resilience. Just get on and do it. Yeah, I think and friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one important. What's your perception about Pakistan itself? Like there are a lot of news about Pakistan having gone through this terrorism and 9/11 and after 9/11 thing, and Obama was found there. And so, what's your perception about the country?
I think it is tainted by that, and so I don't know a lot about it. That I think I'm quite ignorant about.
Okay.
I think I would be more familiar, say, with Indian culture than Pakistani culture, Indian food. Someone was telling me, you know what, I'm misleading you. I did work with a Pakistani
Okay.
person who was Pakistani.
Okay.
And she was actually telling me that we were looking at a video, or we were looking at something that was very lush
Okay.
and very green.
Yes.
And she said, oh, reminds me of Pakistan. And I was actually quite surprised,
Yes.
because I just had maybe the bigger cities. And so for me, I would have to say that Pakistan is somewhat unknown.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is known for other reasons.
Yeah, and so there would be that, but in terms of culture, yeah, obviously you have the
Yes.
more dramatic side, but in terms of culture, history, landscape,
Yes.
food, all of that is still unknown.
Yes. You won't believe that when I look at Omani culture, and I've been to this Omani museum, and I find that most of the things they display here are similar in Pakistan. But the way they have presented it here as their heritage, in Pakistan we don't present it as much. And land-wise, we have high mountains and glaciers, and even 12 months snowing regions, and we have desert, we have hilly areas just like Omani mountains in Balochistan. We have big beach line, and a lot of things are there, but still it's a presentation. Okay.
Yeah, they could probably do with a good PR company.
Yes. Yes.
Or social media or tourism agency
Yes.
that would really sell.
Nowadays some of the vloggers have visited Pakistan and they present it, and nowadays like 5 years or 10 years we can see that some development is going on, they are presenting Pakistan in a different way. And it will take some time, because 5 years is just nothing to build a nation.
Sure.
So even I consider that 75 years, we are going to celebrate our 75th Independence Day in August. I still believe that 75 years is just nothing to build a nation.
Sure.
Nations take time. Anyway. Okay, finally, how's your interaction and your feedback about Islam and Muslims? How do you see them? Like, you worked with them in all these years, and very closely.
Actually, I think in total 5, 7, 6, 13. I probably lived in a Muslim country for more than 14 years.
Oh.
Yeah, so this would be my 7th year in the Gulf, and I lived in Kazakhstan for 6 years, and I lived in Turkmenistan. So the main religions there would have been Islam.
Yes.
The Central Asian states they practice their Islam like the Irish practice their Christianity.
Okay.
Meaning it's there, they believe in Allah, they believe in God.
Yes.
And it guides them, but it doesn't consume them.
Okay.
So what I would say with maybe the form of Islam that is practiced here in the Gulf is that it tends to be all-consuming, and it tends to be a very important and integral part of people's lives. So you would be presented with situations, or people would maybe describe their actions as being guided by Islam.
Okay.
So we're doing this for Islam, or Allah says this. And,
Yes.
I think the average Muslim, no more than the average person anywhere, wants to live a good life, wants to raise their family in a particular way, want to be tolerant and open-minded, and I think overall my experience of Islam would be that.
Okay.
And I'm interested. I would describe myself as an atheist, but I'm interested in what gives people a sense of morality.
Yes.
It's more than, you know, from a practical point of view, it's not so much the spiritual aspect, is what guides a person to be good.
Okay.
Whether that is their own sort of sense of morality or whether it's more religious.
It was fun having iftar with you, and we invited everybody. And what's your thought about it? Like Muslims fasting 12 hours, sometimes 21 hours, and 22 hours sometimes in different regions on the globe. How do you see that? Like as you were talking about, like what motivates them doing this? But this fasting thing in month of Ramadan.
Well, see, we have something similar in Christianity. We have a lead up to Easter, which is called Lent.
Yes.
And it isn't as strict, but there is that sense of giving up something. So I think if it's looked at properly, both periods are a time for reflection, introspection, maybe looking at your life and seeing how you might improve it. Maybe looking outward at how you can improve other people's lives. Lent has become, in some forms, a denial of something. So if it's a child, it might be sweets. If it's a grown-up, it might be alcohol or something like that.
Okay.
Ramadan, again, you know, when you are listening to people talk about it, it is that time of reflection.
Yes.
So I think if that is guiding what people are doing, then it's good. I don't know to what extent people use that as a means of getting through, or whether it is doing it for the sake of doing it, or because it's prescribed.
It's both.
Yeah.
And we can't say for sure that who's getting spirituality out of it, or who's doing for social reason, or family pressure, or what. But it's all. Like, it's up to the person what he takes from it.
Yeah.
And yet a lot of, like, if we take it numbers, then 80-85% of Muslim all over the world keeps the fasting.
Yeah.
And they try their best, yet there are slips, and it happens.
Yeah, and my understanding of that is that, you know, it's quite tolerant, you know, that if you are sick, if you're breastfeeding, if you're traveling, if you're doing all of those things, there's a provision for it. So it's not all or nothing. And then if you do, for whatever reason, you do miss a day, you can make it up later.
You can make it up. You can make it up. And if you break it because you were sick, and even then you can make it up. And there are so many relaxed ways.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard and fast that you must do it anyhow, and anyway, not at all.
Yeah.
And fine. Being atheist, as you say that you won't like to be. And how do you see that? Have you ever tried or thought of trying something like fasting, or like praying, or listening to Quran or something? I'm concerned about Quran only.
Yeah. Well, I was...
And you thought about it, like just once I thought that...
Well, not really at this stage. I have fasted for different reasons. I've gone, you know, without food for 7 days.
Oh.
I've done that 3 times in my life, where it's just water,
Were you in the sea?
No, it was just something to test myself. I like sort of trying to see how far I can go with different things. Okay. And a little bit sort of health conscious as well. So I wouldn't do fasting for religious reasons. So yeah, it hasn't really appealed to me.
Okay. Yeah. There was, you know, on TikTok there are, you know, viral videos, and one of the viral video was one person was explaining how Muslims are, and he said that we are not very rough Muslims who say Allahu Akbar. We are very gentle and kind Muslims. Oh, Allahu Akbar, and then blast ourselves. It was something funny, and everybody was copying it, and different people, husband, wives, were doing it. And like, have you ever felt among the company of Muslims any hostility or anything that you were not comfortable, like you found that why too many Muslims are here, or like that? Ever, because you've worked all these places.
Yeah, I've never experienced that.
Because the way popular media portrays it, like you have first experience face to face and all these years experience.
Yeah.
And you would say the real thing rather than any paid media thing.
No, I put it this way. I would feel more concerned walking down the street of my town at 11 o'clock at night,
Okay.
after the pubs close, when people spill out when they're drunk, than any situation I've been in a Muslim country. And one of the reasons for that is that, at home when people get drunk, they're unpredictable.
Yes.
And various levels of violence might take over. But in terms of this country, Abu Dhabi, Turkmenistan, I've probably had my doors left open, unlocked, more than in any other country. So I know that I can walk down any street at any time and feel safe.
Good.
Yeah,
That's
I've never felt unsafe.
Once, last year, I was 2018, I was traveling to Pakistan. I deliberately took a connected flight from Doha, and it was a 2 hours stop, and then I went to the food court. I had a very loose backpack, and it was khaki color, and I was going to the different restaurants, selecting what food I would take. When I was doing all that, I looked around like people are staring at me, and I thought maybe something, I don't know. I took my dish, and when I was walking towards the table, people were even looking at my tray, okay? And then I realized, oh, this is the situation. I have this backpack, ugly looking backpack, and secondly, I'm a bearded man, and I'm the only bearded in that food court.
Mm.
And most of them were Europeans. And then I said, okay, this is the vibe.
Sure.
And then I became more confident. Okay, now who's looking at me? It was fun.
Yeah. I suppose in that way, I can understand their fear, because the presentation of a lot of people, or even the Taliban, are of a certain look. So if you look like that, even though it might be more traditional, or obviously those people are traditional,
Yeah.
they just see it as a certain representation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nice been talking to you, and I'm going to miss you here. I really enjoyed your company and your way of administration, and I really felt that we were working in very friendly atmosphere.
Mm.
Of course, you were angry at times, and you were happy at other times, and we enjoyed like ups and downs and everything. But I must say that working with you was really learning opportunity for me. I learned a lot of things. It's not that I was zero, but still there is a need, and there is always a room for improvement.
Sure.
And it was really nice working with you. I'm going to miss you.
Likewise, yeah.
And I wish that we keep in touch.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Okay, last of the last. Any chances are you coming back from Vietnam to Gulf countries or Muscat even?
I don't know. I will never say never.
Okay.
Because I would hate to find myself in a position where, I'm walking down the street in 2 years' time and you go, hey Tabish, how you doing? I thought you weren't coming back. So I will always leave the door open. And for me, it's about opportunity.
Yes.
So if something were to open up here, and I thought it was ideal, I would be tempted to come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice being talking.
All right, Tabish, thank you so
you very
much.
much. Thank you.
Great.
We'll stop it here.
Yeah.